Hey y'all, Alan Kinsel here with ProcureSQL. I've been working with data in SQL Server for over 25 years now. And this week, we're going to start a new series called Who's the Troublemaker Anyway, where we discuss things we've seen and some simple things you can look at if you have similar need. How many times have you seen a system slow down or become unresponsive for an unknown reason? We've all used systems that are slow and sometimes unresponsive, and it's painful. And if it's a system that your company's using to make money, it can also be a costly problem. So as pressure rises to figure out what's causing the problems, and there's nothing obvious about what happens, my inclination is to look at the database. Obviously, it's slanted because I'm a database person. So I will usually check and make sure that other people have checked the app servers and DNS servers and domains and all those things before I look at the database. But if they've called me, I'll typically check it out. So if we assume there's some unknown problem occurring in your environment, like there is in my demo environment right now, let's start by looking at the database and see what we can find. A lot of DBA types will have a bunch of pre-baked queries that are used for stuff like this. But I'm going to assume you're not a DBA type and that you're in emergency mode and you just want a simple answer without downloading a bunch of unknown scripts that might be hard to follow or really understand. And really, you probably shouldn't be running those in your environment willy-nilly anyway, because that's not ever a safe idea. So a lot of people will tell you that when you look at this query that I should be using the column names to get just what I want. But in this case, I'd rather just run a quick and dirty select asterisk, get all the data back, and see what's there, because otherwise, I'd have to spend a lot of time to get just the columns I want. In this case, I don't have to worry about it, just asterisk and go on. This isn't compiled code. It's not that critical of a problem. So this is just a simple select from DM exec request to DMV with an apply of SQL text. No big deal. This is a very common query. In this case, we have 83 rows. So 83 rows of doing all kinds of requests in our server. Which one is the problem? What's happening? What are we looking at here? Honestly, it's a lot of noise. So how do we filter out the noise? That's the question. And the easiest way is actually change that outer apply to cross. And when we change it to a cross apply, we just get the currently running, the currently executing requests. So in this case, we see two rows. The first one is select. The second one is a backup database. If we scroll over a little bit, we'll see that neither one is blocking, neither one is waiting, and there's nothing else happening. But is the backup our problem? Well, I don't know. Well, I actually do know, but the backup is rarely ever the problem. But what's that first row? Well, the first row is actually my request. My query is going to show up here because it's running when it returns. This makes sense. In this case, I think the backup is a little bit of a red herring, but I've had instances where people worried that their backups are actually causing problems. So I just wanted to say that sometimes you'll see things that are there, but they're actually not problems. And again, that you just come over here and you look at the wait types, wait times, and the blocking. Just check those things. If they all look like this, where it's basically nothing and we're waiting on backup, and there's no blocking, no wait times, then you're probably just fine. Sometimes when I first speak to someone with their current issue, they have Activity Monitor open and they're looking for clues. So let's open up that and see what that looks like with our virtual SQL Server and see what we can see. Personally, I like the quick and dirty select asterisk, but some people really like this. Me personally, what I really don't like is that it refreshes. I know I can pause it, but it's just a pain. But usually when I'm helping somebody and they're looking at it, they're stressing out like, oh my gosh, why do I have so much CPU usage? What are these waiting tests? That's a lot of I/O. What's going on? And they're just overwhelmed by all of this data. And the reality is that it shows the exact same thing. And in this case, there's nothing waiting. These two tasks, it's just the backup that's waiting. So in a different case, let's just say that we were dealing with an Azure SQL database. Well, we have one more piece that we can look at, and that is the portal in Azure SQL Server, in Azure SQL DB. And if we go over to the portal, it's just a regular portal, click your database, and you wind up here. Well, as you can see, we have, some usage, 10%, maybe 20%, some spikes, but nothing bad. This is nothing major. This is just a normal, Azure SQL DB that's just sitting there. I don't know why I keep scrolling back, but here we are. So we're looking at this, and we don't really see any problems here. We didn't really see any problems with our database server. So let's go down the line and go back and re-ask and say, what do you see over on the Docker side, in our app environment side? What are we seeing over there? And let's ask somebody, maybe they tell us something. And in this case, I've already asked them, and they sent me a nice little image of what's going on, and it looks like this. Well, it's over 100% CPU utilization in Docker right now. I'm not sure how they get over 100%, but apparently that's something that happens. Obviously, the first thing I asked was if they had checked the app servers, and they said they had, but apparently they checked the wrong one. Oh well, this happens. It's not always like this, but sometimes it is. So hopefully, this little demo showed you some things that you can use, maybe some tricks that you can look at when things go wrong in your environment. In this case, we happened to see a red herring of a database backup and figured out that it was actually the app server that was the issue. Um, So if you try looking at these things and you can't find an obvious answer, you can feel free to reach out to me at alan.kinsel@procuresequel.com or to the team at data@procuresequel.com. Until next time.